You're welcome back. Now, yesterday, he became a statistic, one of a number of unfortunate young children who is a victim of sexual abuse here in Ghana. The numbers, Mama V, will startle you. Last year alone, 1,686 children were reported to have been abused. And out of that, 60% of them have not been resolved, as in the police have not been able to bring justice to 60% of those cases. And these are just the ones we know about. So many things mitigate against the ability of our system to protect our children, and after failing to protect them, to find justice for them. And yesterday's story of this young boy who was abused by a cleaner just breaks my heart. Breaks my heart.
Absolutely.
Maxwell Agbagba, of course, found out more yesterday.
And you and I are sitting here, we have our children in school. The last place you would expect that anybody would abuse them, something would go wrong, would be a school. So here we go with this story shared by Maxwell Agbagba.
She pulled my penis. Rajit sleep for me. He put his hands in my anus. Rajit put his penis on my ear.
Voice of 7-year-old Kwame, not his real name. He sits quietly as his mates in church answer some biblical questions from their Sunday school teacher. We are now some meters away from the other children. The victim says the cleaner stripped him naked, lied on him, and inserted his fingers in his anus. He says he cried and endured the painful experience as his plea fell on deaf ears.
She pulled my penis. Rajit sleep for me. He put his hands in my anus. Rajit put his penis on my ear. I went to tell my teacher. And my teacher called my mother and told my mother. It was painful. I told him that he's paining me. And he said, I'm lying. He's not paining me. And he said, she'll finish right now.
Pictures seen by JoyNews show bruises on the male organ of the Class 1 pupil. The victim told his uncle the accused stroked his male organ for a long time. He says the 7-year-old boy is traumatized by the October 11 incident.
The moment he get to the entrance of the school, you could say that he panicked. He panicked. This is a little boy, 7-year-old boy. So psychologically, it is building on her. If we, the parents and the guardians, don't do something to raise that early, it might grow up and then affect him. He pulled, he tried to jerk him off. So he squeezed and then pulled his penis until the boy started feeling some, sexual sensation, and then he started putting his finger in his anus, in the boy's anus. Alarming, because this is a 7-year-old boy who doesn't know what is sex. For him to say that he pulled my penis and he was enjoying me, you see, so at that moment, he has got a feeling of what sex is. This boy will grow up, if care is not taken, and with prayers, he will grow up and knows that the only means of enjoying sexually is with another man, which is very, very alarming. And this is a school that we have sent our children to be taken care of when we are at work, working. And then if the management or the teachers of the school will just allow them for the children to be, being preyed on, if I use that word, by anybody in the school, then it is very alarming.
Sometime last week, the culprit was handed a 24-month jail term, bringing finality to the pursuit of justice. But the painful experience continued to haunt the Class 1 pupil.
Watching that, the only thing I kept asking myself is my son safe at school? And I guess parents today will be asking the same question.
Sure.
Are your kids safe at school? I mean, it's school. Who would ever have thought that you should worry about someone abusing your child while they are in school and surrounded by friends, teachers, security? This can happen to this poor boy. You see how intelligent he is, how articulate he is. His innocence has just been robbed by some monster who will only go to jail for 24 months. Well, actually, 24 months is the maximum. He'll be out probably earlier than that with good behavior. Who will his next victim be?
You just imagine, because this could be you, this could be me, this could be happening to any family at all. And I think that there are a few things that we can learn apart from the person taken to jail. But there are a few things that we can learn. I like very much the fact that the boy can recount, can tell the story. Like he's not afraid to share the story. I like very much the fact that he was able to share with his teacher, and the teacher called the parent. So if there's anything that we can take away from this, it's happened to someone. It's sad. It should never happen to anybody. But I guess that sometimes we hear some of these stories so that we can also begin to learn, begin to think about what we would do if it happened to us. So let's teach the children to open up, to be able to talk about anything and everything, no matter what. That way, I think we will be helping ourselves and be helping the little children as
Indeed,
well.
and there is such a big need for education for parents to understand that you don't have the legal ability to negotiate over a crime. You can't settle a crime out of court. And that when your child reports something to you as a parent, your immediate responsibility is to follow it through to the end, just to demonstrate to the child that what happened was wrong, and that the child did nothing wrong, was not a contributory factor to what happened to them.
True.
And this is part of your role as a parent, to protect your child by showing them that you will never abandon them. If somebody does something like that to them and you let it slide, what you're telling your child is that their safety is not a problem. It's not a priority
Otherwise,
to you.
it's okay. It's normal.
Yeah, it's
People
normal.
can do this with
others can do that to your
and
child.
get away with it.
You know this thing where they settle the thing out of court. Sometimes it happens after the matter has been reported to the police. Then suddenly the case is withdrawn. That thing baffles me more than anything in the world, because at that point it means the police are also not playing their role, because in this country crimes are committed against the state.
The state, yes. And individuals cannot take the matter out of court because they are not the ones prosecuting.
How does that even happen? How does that even happen? And the police must never let a case, especially a case of child abuse, go. Our constitution, the highest law in our land, says that in all things the interest of the child must come before everything else. Before everything else. So we have no excuse for not protecting the children in our society. No excuse whatsoever. It really, really gets to me every time I see how little we value, the innocence of our children, and how easily we allow it to be devoured.
We have a follow-up that I'm thinking we can make on this story. We'll find out from the parents, the guardian, what they would want us to do to support. I think that would be good.
Absolutely.
Because we shouldn't just hear the story. It shouldn't be a story. We should find out what more we can do to make the little boy feel better.
Well, I don't know if you remember, right here in the Greater Accra region, there was a story. And by the way, the statistics I gave you earlier about 100,
over 1,000.
Yes, majority of them are in the largest number of them happen in Accra, followed by Kumasi, then the central region. Now, here in Accra, I don't know if you remember the story of a father who impregnated 2 of his daughters.
Yes, I remember.
You remember that we heard the mother talk about it. The father was arrested. Well, latest I heard was that the case has been dropped. The mother has withdrawn the case. Now, sometimes when this happens, the police give you the excuse that, well, when the victim withdraws the case, we then don't have evidence, that we can use to prosecute. Okay, how much more evidence do you need than 2 pregnant children? How much more evidence do you need than that? You know, and the thing that makes me so sad is that everybody lets children down. Everybody. From the mother who has withdrawn the case, or perhaps didn't even see what her husband was doing to her children, to the father who obviously defiled his children, to the police who have dropped the case because the mother has withdrawn it, to social services who don't even know what's happening with this case, because I asked them yesterday. They don't have a clue what's happening.
What kind of social services do we even have?
Well, I'm talking about like Department of Children.
I get you, but you know, the way you put it, like it's so structured and it's...
It clearly isn't.
Yeah, it's not.
It clearly isn't.
It's not.
So at every opportunity, we let children down.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You know, to the people in the community who will probably be stigmatizing these children, giving them the most horrific time of their lives by staring at them and, you know, failing to you know, protect these children and make them feel like it's not their fault. Yeah. To the schools, and this is a sticking point for me, because very often the people who abuse children are teachers, head teachers. And while the case is in court, there was a case in the Upper West region where a headmaster defiled a child, a 10-year-old, and while he was being tried, he was still a headmaster.
Well, let's speak to the Ghana Education Service. We've got the spokesperson, Cassandra Chum Ampofu, is on the line. She's going to help us understand what's been happening with this matter. Cassandra, good morning to you. I'm not sure, are you already aware of this issue with the boy who was sexually abused?
Good morning, Mamavi, and good morning to your viewers and the listeners out there. I heard this yesterday, and upon investigation and getting in touch with the Metro, I think Tema also, they said the culprit has even been jailed, and then there are other processes ongoing. So I heard of it yesterday.
Okay. But what's the structure? What happens when a case like this is found in a school? What happens? What's the lay-down procedure? What must be followed?
Well, when we get wind of such an issue, the first thing that is done is the school sets up an investigative committee, and then it moves to the district education office, and then to the regional disciplinary committee, and then after, the report is forwarded to the Ghana Education headquarters. And so when we study the report, and then we are okay with the proceedings and all of that and the outcome, we either write back to the regional directorate to implement the recommendations, or depending on the gravity or the magnitude of the issue, we also forward it to the council to also give its final decision, especially when it comes to termination of appointments and all of that. But again, with abusers, we have counselors or guidance and counseling coordinators and girl education units in all the district officers. When it gets to them, they also report to the police, and then we also take the criminal aspect. But then if they don't hear it early, then it means that the school also begins with that administrative processes. Other than that, we always want to report to the police when it comes to matters of these children. And then the administrative issues will also continue, with the teacher or whoever, the adults.
Cassandra, does this relate to only public schools?
It does not at all, because all schools are under pre-tertiary and the Ghana Education Service. And so we have all like I indicated earlier, our counselors, and then the girls unit, we have our chef coordinators. All these three units work together to ensure a child or a safe environment for the child. And so we have all of them, or we expect that they all visit the schools within their circuit to ensure that the proper things are being done.
What's the highest punishment, and I'm not talking about the criminal aspects, but what's the highest punishment a staff could get
Administratively, the highest punishment is termination of appointment.
Okay. Is there any form of compensation to the victim and family?
Yes, for us, we take the child through counseling. That we make sure that the counselors take over to talk to the child and all of that. But in terms of real compensation, I cannot see that for a fact now. The criminal aspect, like I said, is also taken over by the experts.
Okay. So in this particular case, granted, you heard about it yesterday after we did the story. Is the GCES going to do anything more other than what we've heard?
Yes, yesterday I spoke to our director for counseling, guidance and counseling, and she has also started her own investigations. We intend to call the head of the school to find out more as to what exactly happened, and then we look at the administrative part of it. Yes, I'm told that the man has been jailed, but again, administratively, we also look at it, and then we would send a team to the school to, interact with the teachers in the to ensure that things are really going on smoothly, and then we will talk to them so that some of these issues does not really come up again.
Madam Chumampo, a quick one from me. Yes, hi, it's Kojo here. A quick one from me. So, how did someone like this end up in a school anyway? Does the GCES do checks on employees that are going to be working closely with children to make sure that we're not bringing people who have any sort of history into contact with innocent children?
Yes, for this particular case, I cannot tell. It's a private school, and private schools, they just employ any other graduate, unlike Ghana Education Service, where you would have to, first of all, get training in education. Those who even have other degrees and don't have education, you give them the opportunity. And again, that's the reason why we have this line center and all of that. It's not only on your academic qualifications to teach, but again, we also look at the moral aspect. But some of these behaviors, because you know that sometimes you will not be able to see just outright that indeed this is how the person really is. The person may have the first class, may have everything and all of that to be able to teach in the school. They have done other investigations. But again, if the person has, a problem with it, when it comes to morality, the moral aspect and all of that is difficult to identify. And so what we do is that we keep engaging them. Keep talking to them during staff meetings and all of that, especially with the male teachers who are in the girls' group and all of that. We keep talking to them as to how to handle the students and not to go overboard, have any relationship or try to abuse them.
Okay, just permit me to clarify something here. This is not about moral aspects. This is about criminal aspects.
Yes.
And I'm particularly interested. Yes, I'm particularly interested in what your protocols are, because there was a case just last year where in Wa, at the Ping Basic School in Sisala East, a headmaster was found guilty. Actually, the case ended this year. He was found guilty of defiling a 10-year-old girl on his desk and then giving her 20 Ghana cedis not to tell anyone. Now, the child reported this in April last year. The man remained a headmaster, even though the case was in court and the police were investigating. He remained a headmaster in this same school until September, when the Ghana Education Service moved him to another school to be a headmaster there. And it was only after the court found him guilty that he was sent to jail. But until the day he went to prison, he remained a headmaster. So I'm asking, what is the GCES's procedure when you are told that a person has been suspected or accused of molesting children? How does that person remain a headmaster?
Well, Kojo, when we first do the investigation, the fact-finding investigations, and then at that level we are able to establish a prima facie against the teacher or whoever, the head teacher in this case. The teacher is interdicted. I am not too sure or I don't really have the full facts of what you are talking about. I would have to find out. But in our others, if we are able to establish a prima facie against you and all of that, we interdict the teacher, and then we continue with the investigation. And so in such a case, I think maybe they could have done that, and then so that the teacher will not be in the school, or the head teacher will not be in the school and continue with the other duties. I mean, I don't really have the full facts on this particular one, but for that's how our process is like. Once you establish the prima facie case, you will be interdicted, and then the investigations will continue.
Okay, thanks for the education. Thank you very much for speaking to us this morning.
We'll come back and talk some showbiz with Becky. Stomboy is in the news. Stay with us.